everybody. It's Monday, August 10th, and that means it's time for another episode of Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia, brought to you by Rogue Tulips Consulting and Association Management Services. I'm Cecilia Sepp. I'm the founder and principal of Rogue Tulips and one of your co-hosts. We're here today with our guest, Kevin Mayeux, and I am going to throw it over to Agnes, my co-host, so she can introduce herself.
Thank you, Cecilia. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our global audience, wherever you're joining us from. My name is Agnes Amos-Coleman. I'm an author and a consultant. Over to you, Cecilia.
Great. Thank you, Agnes. And we're so excited to have Kevin here with us today. He's the CEO of NAIFA, which is the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. So welcome, Kevin. And why don't you say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, hello. Thanks again for having me on today. Again, my name is Kevin. I'm the CEO of NAIFA, and we represent all the insurance agents and financial advisors across the United States. And those are the folks that work with everyday Main Street type folks to make sure that they can have in place the right sort of financial services products so that they're financially prepared for their future. And I've been an association management professional now for 23 years, been with 4 different associations throughout my tenure. And it's just great to be able to spend time with both of you and visit today.
Oh, that's great. Well, congratulations on your career and on your current position. Now, you're a leader in a global pandemic, working with an association. So what so far has been the biggest change you've seen?
Wow. So much has changed over the past 4 to 5 months as this pandemic has unfurled. And I think that one thing that has really changed is, of course, the way we do business. Because, right, associations particularly are used to people getting together, networking face-to-face, learning from each other, talking to somebody across the table, and just getting to know each other as people and as professionals and helping each other out. And the way that we do that has had to change a lot over the past few months as we've all been working remotely from our homes or other places, and we can't gather together face-to-face very often. And when you do, it's in very limited groups. And then, of course, you've got to socially distance from each other. And so one of the big things we've learned as an association is to be nimble and to change the way that we do an event and just be able to change its format. So right now, much like this podcast right now, we do things like this by doing Zoom webinars, et cetera, and we connect with our members and we try to produce networking opportunities and educational content, but we do it via using technology. So that's a change for us, but I think it's a really good, healthy change.
You know, and being somebody who's worked virtually since 2003, totally agree with you on that one. I think we really have so much great technology today that we can connect with each other. So as a leader, though, has your mindset changed at all? Like the way you talk to people, for example, the way you coach your staff, the way you encourage them?
Yeah, it has. And I think it's changed in a really good way because, it's actually, I used to think, if people worked from home, they may not be getting as much done as if they were in the office. Boy, that's changed. I know that from a personal perspective, that when you're working from home, I probably get 50% more done than what I did in the office because you've got a little less distraction. You can also work a little more efficiently and you connect with people more. But I've also learned that, of course, people need to interact with each other socially to a certain degree to be able to get stuff done. And so I make it a point to call my direct reports and then as often as I can, call others on my team regularly through using Microsoft Teams or Zoom and just try to connect with them and see how they're doing, make sure they're well personally, make sure their family's doing okay, make sure that they understand that they're appreciated, that we're all dealing with doing work differently than how we did before, but the work that they do is vitally important and letting them know that we're here to support them and that we appreciate what they're doing. So yeah, I've learned quite a bit so far, but it's been a really good experience. And what I've also learned is you don't have to, again, be necessarily physically face-to-face all the time, although I'd love for us to get back to more of that. But you can still do great stuff with people dealing with this kind of environment.
Yeah, I agree with that. Agnes and I used to work together at a totally virtual organization, so we know the power of the telephone call. Sometimes our calls would go on for hours just because you need that connection when you're not in the same space. So Agnes, what are your thoughts on this topic so far?
I want to take a different view with this, Kevin. Strategically, how is that changed with your leadership? When I say the leadership of the organization, as far as your board of directors are concerned, And also, one of the things that I'm interested in it is your organization's strategic priorities changed with this leadership style and with this pandemic that we're dealing with?
So the way the board does business has changed because, again, they're used to getting together. They're used to having a day and a half long meeting where you sit across the table from each other, you discuss things, and then you go to meals together, and maybe you have a cocktail or something together in the evening and you unwind. Well, that doesn't work in this environment. And particularly the time span that people have, their attention span in this environment is a little more limited. And so we've learned to put things into more digestible chunks. So we'll do 2 or 3 hour meetings, and we might do more of them. But if we do it longer than that in this kind of environment, we find that people just, they lose attention. They get distracted by other things in life. They're looking at their cell phones the whole time. They're taking another phone call or something. And so the format of how we do things has changed quite a bit. We've also learned that, again, you've just got to be nimble and you've got to pivot. Some other organizations in this have just decided when they've had an event coming up, we're just going to cancel the event because we can't get together at XYZ meeting location and do our activity. We decided, no, let's turn lemons into lemonade, and let's find a way that we can still do the same thing virtually. So we had back in May, we had our big annual congressional fly-in. We bring about 1,000 folks in from across the country. They go to the United States Capitol and they talk to their policymakers about issues that are important to them and to their customers. We couldn't do that, of course, this year because the Capitol was closed and people couldn't travel. But what we did is we turned it into a virtual event. And instead of having 1,000 people there, we had 5,000 people that attended in a virtual environment. And we still had 18 members of Congress join us virtually and visit with people in this kind of a format. So we're doing the same things. I think we're actually doing them better in some ways. We just have to change the way we're doing it a bit to accommodate the new reality.
That's an interesting comment. You think you're doing some of these things better. Can you share an example of what you think you're doing better in this environment?
Well, like I said with that congressional fly-in, so what we did with that, it used to be a 2-day event, but it was all about government relations. But what we did was we said, let's change the format and let's do a 3-day event, and we're going to have 3 different topics. The first day was actually on diversity in our industry and in our association, because one of our strategic goals has been to become more diverse. This profession has largely been older, white, and male forever. And we really think it needs to reflect more of the fabric of what society is like today. And so we've had a strategic goal to help improve that. And so what we were able to do is we had a diversity symposium. It drew 1,200 people online. For a diversity symposium, we used to do, we'd have 30 people there. We had 1,200 people there. So we were able to reach more people with the message and get them engaged in the topic than what we were ever able to do before. In fact, we had more people on that than the 5 we had before combined, multiplied by 2, just in one day. And then we had what I talked about our fly-in itself. And then the next day, we had a leadership event, and we talked about how to be a good servant leader, how to give back to others, how to lead by example, et cetera. And we had Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank joined us for that. And then during that, we had 2,500 people attend that activity. So we were able to do more in the same amount of time at a much lower price point and touch more people with it.
That's fantastic.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Yes. This is so, I'm really very impressed, and there's a lot of lessons here for our global audience. And one of the things that I'd like you to share with us, Kevin, is that for associations or business environment that are struggling in these difficult times, what are some of the best practices that you can share with them that would get them in this creative mindset of not just doing things the way they were, but doing things better and more creatively?
That's a great question, Agnes. So I would say, one, you have to be nimble. You need to adjust to the situation that's at hand, because like it or not, the world has changed, and the way we do business has to change with it. And if we don't change, we're going to become stale and we'll be out of business soon. And so associations need to think about how you can reach people differently than how you did before. And also, again, like we said, you could have even more impact at a lower price point if you do it right. So you've got to learn from that. The other thing I would say is that make sure your people know you care about them. Again, social distancing can really make some people feel isolated. And again, man is a social creature, and we like to congregate and be with others and enjoy their company and their camaraderie and all that. And so, let your folks know you care about them. Let them know that, now more than ever, you as an association leader and your association itself is there to support them and to make sure that they have the right tools and resources they need to be successful, and ask them for their feedback as to what more you can do to help empower them and to help them get their work done. Because if you don't do it, I think you're going to lose members. And if you lose members, of course, you lose your ability to impact your mission, but you also lose the revenue that's associated with those members. So by doing the right thing and keeping in good contact with them, being nimble and being responsive to their needs, hopefully you'll at least maintain the status quo, if not grow, during this environment.
Well, so Kevin, when we do get to the point where we can all come back together in the same room eventually, hopefully later this year, do you see NAIFA having hybrid events? You've talked about, you've increased inclusion, you've increased participation, you've been able to reach more people. So do you see having a hybrid event in the future where like there's some people at a location and you're live streaming?
For sure. I think that's kind of the perfect blend, right? Particularly, we have been traditional as an association and been thinking, no, maybe we'll broadcast a few things, or maybe for our major conference, we might take the main stage presentation and broadcast that up, but the rest has got to stay only to the participants that are there. I think this has really helped open up our mindset and our thinking to understand you can have a face-to-face event, but you can also make some of it available virtually for people to attend. Because you might have people that just can't travel due to whatever reason, distance or economics or health concerns or anything else. But if you can still bring them that experience, no matter where they are, you'll get more loyalty, and hopefully you'll be able to help them as a professional, and then of course retain them as a member.
Yeah, that's really, and I know ASAE, for example, has experimented with that in the past and decided not to do it. But now the 2020 ASAE annual conference is completely virtual and no fee. So I'm hoping in the future, the no fee part was a nice surprise, I have to say. But I think in the future, I'm hoping ASAE will see that as well. Like maybe you could have a concurrent virtual conference with the in-person conference, and maybe that's a different timing. But I do agree with you, Kevin, that more people can participate, because a lot of people can't travel, or they can't pay for the travel, or they can't get out of the office, or their boss won't pay for them to go, or won't let them attend. So I think, this is demonstrating the power that we do have to connect as individuals, whether or not we're in the same room. So we're coming down to the end of our episode already, but I just got to ask, do you think you'll reopen your in-person office in 2020? Or
yeah, I think we will, but I think we'll do it permissively. So we have, in addition to our main office in the Washington, D.C. area, we have a satellite office in Iowa where we've got 15 of our staff out there, and we've got remote staff around the country. I think we're going to permissively reopen, meaning not mandatory. If you will open, and we'll open with social distancing guidelines in place and other things to protect the safety of our staff and others that might go into the office. But if you, for any reason, as an employee, feel like you'd rather work from home, as long as you can get the job done remotely, we'll let you continue to do that. And I think that'll happen real soon. The safety of our staff is a paramount concern for us. And we have learned throughout the past 4 months that you can do business well this way anyways. There's some things that face-to-face is better and needed. Maybe if you're cutting checks or doing physical things where you have to be on site, you'll need to be there. But for the rest, we'll make it optional.
And and before we close out for today, I have kind of a fun question. Do you think NAIFA would ever order face masks with the NAIFA logo on it?
Oh, NAIFA has ordered face masks with the NAIFA logo.
That's great.
I ordered them back in April. They're already in both of our main offices, the DC area one and the Iowa one. And they're
Nice.
really nice, easy to put on cloth covering, and it has our logo on both sides. Not in the front, because that might block your breathing, but on both sides.
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool. So you're way ahead of the curve on that one.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, so before we wrap it up for today, Agnes, do you have any closing thoughts or comments?
I just want to share, actually it's a question for Kevin. He's a great leader. I've known him for years and I have a lot of respect for him. One of the things that I want to ask you, Kevin, is this. as a leader, what's the pulse of your profession, in the profession that you, in the association that you are, that you're representing? What's the pulse of your members? How are they dealing with this pandemic in their business environment?
So I think it started like a lot of other professions with a lot of uncertainty. Again, my members are used to doing business with people across the desk, you know, listening to them, looking them straight in the eye, understanding what their needs are, and putting together the right financial plan for them and for their families. And knowing that you have to do things differently now has had to change the way that they do it. And so for some of them, it's actually understanding, no, you've got a webcam on your laptop. You can do this. Or if you don't have one, for $30, you can buy one online and get it to you. And then, so we've done a little bit of educating to help our people understand how to do work in this new environment. And what we've also done as an association for our members, and I guess it benefits everyone in the profession, we've worked with the various state insurance commissioners around the country to have them provide more flexibility in their rules. Because some states would require you to actually like be physically with a person when you sign a contract. And so we've worked with them to change those so you can still make sure you protect the consumer fully, but at the same time provide more flexibility in how you do business because of the fact that the physical safety of people is so critically important today.
That is great. And you're obviously still advocating, still pulling together, still leading. Wonderful examples. To our audience, look to NAIFA for inspiration because they seem to be doing it right. So Kevin, we're at the point now where we have to go rogue for now for the week, but what, in one sentence, what's something you'd like people to take away from you? And then if people want to, or not take away from you, that didn't come out right, that you would like people to take away today after the discussion. And then is there a way that people can contact you if they'd like to follow up?
For sure. So I first of all, thank you again for having me on today. It's been a pleasure to spend time with both of you and to talk to your audience. I would say, again, as association leaders, you've got to always be focused on meeting your member needs. And so when things change, when circumstances change, we've got to be nimble and we've got to adapt to the times to make sure that we're meeting those needs. And I'll tell you right now, when there's something as critical as a global pandemic going on, you know, you can shine as an association. If you show your members you're still there for them, you have their back, you're going to look after their needs, and they can turn to you for resources and inspiration and ideas about how they can better do their jobs. And so actually this is a great time for us as association leaders to step up and to shine and add value like we've never done before. And so I would say be energetic, be optimistic, because we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this pandemic, and be nimble because your members need you now more than ever before. And if you want to reach me, feel free to shoot me an email at kmayeux@NAIFA.org.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. You have been a real pleasure. It's a wonderful conversation, and continued good luck to you as we all work our way through the pandemic. We have to go rogue for now, but we'll be back next week with another episode. If you'd like to learn more about NAIFA, as Kevin said, you can go to NAIFA.org. If you'd like to learn more about Rogue Tulips, which we hope you will, you can go to roguetulips.com. We also support the 501c League, which is a virtual membership organization for everyone in the 501c community and the people who do them. So check out the League at the 501cleague.net. The League also offers an ethics course that fulfills the CAE renewal requirement. So thanks again, everyone, to our guest, Kevin, to Agnes, our co-host, and we'll be back next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.